Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra for a Sunday here on News Central. Now this morning, we'd like to talk about someone of whom, by all Nigerian standards, should be considered a rock star by now because of her wealth and, of course, because of her notoriety. There's a woman whose name this country knows very well, not because she sang a song and not because she played football, but because, for a period of time, she sat at the center of Nigeria's most profitable heartbeat. Her name, and you'll know this name, is Desiani Alison Madueke. Former Minister of Petroleum Resources, former controller of the valves, former manager of the tap. And now, no longer quite as distant from consequences as she once seemed. This week, or let's say last week, thousands of kilometers away inside of a quiet, orderly courtroom in London, the Suffolk Crown Court, her trial continued. Not in Abuja, take note, not in Lagos and not in Port Harcourt, not in Nigeria, but in London. Which is a curious thing, because when you think about it, because the money in question here is actually Nigerian. The oil was Nigerian, the people affected were Nigerians. But the justice, you see, the justice is British. It's one of the quieter ironies of our time. Nigeria, the giant of Africa, exporter of crude oil, exporter of talent, has also become, well, in some ways, exporter of justice. We ship our corruption cases abroad and wait for another country to tell us what happens to our own money. We transfer the narrative. British prosecutors, well, they say she accepted bribes, gifts, properties, and favors. You know, the kind of generosity that usually comes with expectations. We want something back. But she denies it. Of course, she would. Nobody ever admits to eating the soup when the pot is empty, do they? But this is not a new story, ladies and gentlemen, because for 10 years and even over, her name has appeared in headlines, investigations, committees, and even press briefings, and yet it is in London that the story seems to be moving with finality. So you begin to ask yourself why Nigerian justice system always sometimes needs a visa before it can function, why accountability must pass the immigration tests, go through immigration control before it can arrive, and what that says about the system at home. I'll tell you, because every time a Nigerian official is investigated and prosecuted abroad, it sends a message, not just about the accused themselves, but about the country they came from. It suggests that somewhere along the line, confidence was lost, confidence that Nigeria could investigate Nigeria, confidence that Nigeria could prosecute Nigeria, the same confidence that Nigerians could judge Nigerians. No. Now enter a new President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, came into office with promise, big promises, by the way, the kind that arrives with applause and expectations. We can't wait to see what it's going to be like during your administration. And this is where the Desiani trial becomes more than just her story and becomes a bigger test for Nigeria. Because you see, fighting corruption is not a slogan. It's not a speech you tell at the beginning of your administration and forget about all through it. It's not something you announce. It's something you build. Rather slowly, but carefully, and often uncomfortably. So the question now is not whether Desiani Alison Madueke will face justice in London. The question is whether Nigeria will build a system where the next case, like this one, can be concluded here, at home, on home soil. Because democracy is not just about elections, it's also about consequences. It's about whether power answers when called or whether it simply moves beyond reach. As the world watches Alison's trial, Nigeria faces a very quiet but important question. Why are we in the business of exporting our justice? And if this administration intends to reverse decades of decay, will it finally bring accountability fully within our borders? Well, we wait to see. Because in the end, the strength of democracy is not measured by how loudly it is promised, but by where that justice actually is done. Hear for Nigeria, please. Welcome. This is Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. Of course, I don't do this alone. Boy, how could I? It's 3 hours of very, very arduous conversation. I'm joined by Inem Masso. Inem, you are welcome. Yay.
Good morning, Mazino.
Morning
Thank you so much for that welcome.
How was Valentine?
It was good. I went out. Did you? I went out. Did you, Mazino? Did you go out?
I'm the one asking the questions here.
Valentine's was good. We went to a few restaurants, actually, that were completely full to capacity with a lady friend of mine, my sister, Mimi.
Ruined it.
Why did I ruin it?
It's supposed to be with a significant other.
See, that's the problem. In my monologue yesterday, I said love is more than just about couples.
Yeah, you also said you're in love with Jesus.
Exactly.
We'll have this conversation. Let's get the show started, and then we do the dailies, and then on to more inside our first hour. Welcome once again. This is Breakfast Extra.
A very good morning again. Now, across Nigeria today, security, opportunity, and accountability are all in sharp focus. In Doma, 23 lives were lost as bandits defied a peace deal, leaving communities questioning whether agreements can truly protect them. Youths are facing a quieter yet growing threat. Nicotine addictions are creeping into classrooms and social spaces. Meanwhile, African leaders gather at the 39th AU Summit to tackle security, economics, and the future of the continent. And in our schools, girls are breaking barriers in STEM, but opportunity still lags behind with potential. Now, we will begin in Nasarawa State, where residents are asking hard questions about protection and trust after deadly attacks. Then we go to the capital of Ethiopia, which is Addis Ababa, for the AU Summit, where decisions made today could shape the continent for years to come. And now back home, we examine the rising health risks of nicotine exposure among young Nigerians. And later, we celebrate women and girls in STEM, exploring how access, mentorship, and innovation are changing the future. And finally, a family in Kogi is demanding justice for an attempted abuse of a minor, again, showing the urgent need for protection and accountability in our communities. Each story today is linked to one question: are our systems proactive, or are we only responding after tragedy strikes? There are and there will be more details coming up. But first, we go to the dailies.
To the dailies, but wanted to end that debate about Valentine's. I realized yesterday how commercialized it has become, and that's the only reason why they celebrate it. Businesses, products, everyone gears in for Valentine's just so they can sell products to you, diminishing love to a one-day activity, which shouldn't be, should be 365. Unfortunately, we bought into it, and now the men suffer it the most.
So, you know what? I think it makes sense for you to just maybe perhaps capitalize on one specific day where you are just celebrating love, outside of the fact that love should be celebrated every single day. It's like your birthday. When you celebrate your birthday, you are celebrating the coming of a new age, but it's also just a celebration of your life. But every single day, you should be celebrating the fact that you are alive. But there's always just that one significant day where it's really brought in focus. So I think every day should be day of love. You should be celebrating love every day. But one day in a year, just to go crazy.
It's a very heavy day on the pockets.
I mean, it is.
It's the problem.
It is.
Well, hopefully you had a good one yesterday here at New Central. Just the day before, Friday the 13th, we actually had ours. It was a fun
Friday
time to
the 13th.
Yeah, exactly, which was weird. But we're going to be showing you clips of that sometime inside of Breakfast Extra this morning, so do stay put, something to look forward to. But let's launch the dailies with our little montage, and we'll be back to tell you what the front pages are saying.
So this morning on the dailies, we will kick off with the Nation newspaper first, Mazino.
Okay, cool. Let's tell you what the front page for the Nation is telling. 2027 INEC consults over poll dates. Ramadan overlap. I didn't even know that. It actually overlaps over Ramadan. Rep sermon emergency session on poll timetable. Others. Lobbying intensifies amid ahead harmonization of amended electoral bill. We have a very interesting strip which tackles the bill, talks about the details, just refers to it in some fun way. You'll see. Now, El-Rufai under fire over NSA phone tapping claim. Now, the funny thing, Inam, is that I was going to make my monologue about the phone tap incident because El-Rufai went on national television to tell that illegal or not, people do it. And a phone tapping instance should be shrugged off, just like someone stealing a sandwich. In this case, he claims that he had access to conversations from the National Security Advisor, which is a big deal. How can you have, that's a big deal. So for me,
and it's an invasion of privacy.
It's not just privacy, but national security.
And a breach.
The NSA is not somebody's, you don't just phone tap. You don't talk about phone calls from the NSA. So it moved from being the instance at the airport with the DSS for me and them attempting to arrest him without a warrant to the fact that there are conversations that we're not privy to, that we're not even supposed to be privy to, but certain elite politicians have these opportunities, illegal or not, mostly illegal. But it was a very interesting take to actually see on that interview, which we're going to talk about that much later. Still the Nation front page here, Wuru abductions, 176 children, women still in captivity. Sad instance here, Kwara working with security agencies over terrorists. Video, there's a video. And what more on the Nation newspaper, down Argungu Festival signals return of stability, says Tinubu, pledges stronger support for agriculture and tourism as well. That's a good one. A bit of good news this morning. Osun APC endorses Tinubu, receives 2 PDP senators, 3 reps. PDP Accord Party now caucuses, says Oyetola, better watch what you say, just might come back to haunt you.
Yep.
And PDP stakeholders launch new reconciliation bid. It's about time before 2027. What do you have, Inam?
I've got the Sunday Telegraph next. It's an interesting one at the top, actually, before I go to the headline. It says, at the AU Summit, Nigeria must lead Africa in a global order, says Guterres. That's an interesting one because Nigeria calls themselves the giants of Africa. So I guess if you claim to be a giant, you have to take giant steps. Right next to it, it says 2027 polls will consult over Ramadan overlap. That's INEC. And then insecurity, terrorists kill 26 in renewed Borgu attacks. Afenifere expresses concern over Southwest State. And then right underneath, Tinubu, return of Argungu Festival means peace. And then in the headlines right there, 2027, APC, PGF presidency intensifies search for Shetima's replacement. Interesting. And then Northeast may get Senate president, speaker likely from South. The International, or INTL, local pressure mounts on a ruling party over same faith ticket. It'll still be tough, says Chieftain. And then at the bottom there, Pat Utomi interview, Nigeria would have been different if Ekweme Falai won in 1999.
You're doing good. You're doing good. Great.
And then OB says, credible polls, the best Valentine's gift to Nigeria.
Yay.
I concur. I really concur.
True.
What's next, Mazzino?
Okay. Let's see. What do we have next now? On a break now, perhaps. Maybe we will bring you some more headlines during the course of the show, but do stay with us. Let's go on a break and come back with some conversations, some of them very necessary, especially at this time. Do stay with us. We'll be back in a minute.
Our big report this morning takes us to Nasarawa State, where hope has once again been interrupted by violence. In Doma local government area, at least 23 people were killed when armed bandits stormed communities that had only recently been told peace had returned. This attack comes after a widely publicized peace deal between authorities and armed groups, an agreement that was meant to end years of killings, reopen farmland, and allow displaced families to rebuild. For many residents, the agreement was more than policy. It was permission to breathe once again. Some returned to their farms, others reopened shops. Children began to move without escorts, but today, those fragile steps towards normal life have been replaced by fresh graves.
What this raises is a deeper question about the nature of negotiated peace in Nigeria's security landscape. When the state reaches agreements with violent actors, what guarantees exist for the civilians caught in between? And when those guarantees fail, what responsibility follows? So our correspondent Rukaya Jibia traveled once again to Doma. She spoke with survivors, community leaders, and also security officials and examined the reality behind a peace deal now under strain. Here's her special report.
A community is in mourning in the Tafoki area of Faskari local government, Katsina State. Residents here say they had a peace deal with armed bandits, but that deal meant nothing.
Irin time an ce an sasanta mu dai a wannan lokaci ba mu dauke su da wani abu ba, komai da komai in sun zo suna yi su anshe mana mashina su anshe mana wayoyi saboda mun taba dauko ma mara lafiya suka dau suka tarbe mu da mashin din da muka dauko da kudaden mu da zamu tai asibiti da wayoyin mu duk suka anshe.
The attack came at noon. Bandits stormed the village. They tied up young men and shot them. They then began shooting people at random. A resident, Umar Doma, describes it as being haunted like chickens.
Ranar Talata misalin karfe 12 na rana, wannan mutane 'yan ta'addan suka shigo garinmu da mashina, ba ma adadi mashinan, su sai su jama mu suna zaune, kowa ta harkokin shi bakin gwargwado a ta zaune cikin inuwa a gidansu, wasu a gidansu ma gidansu, sa kama harbin su da bindiga, wasu kuma suka kama suka daddaure su, suka bada su bayan gari, sa kai su wajen gari suka harbe suka tafi. Daga nan suka koma bayan gari sa neman mutane kaman kaji ko kuma kaman namun daji.
The violence lasted nearly 2 hours. At least 21 people are confirmed dead. The search for more bodies continues. Audu recounts how bandit forced his elderly father to call for his son. When he came, they gathered 8 people, tied them, took them to the bush, and killed them.
Suna nan zaune sai suka same su da suka hada su 8. Daga ciki suka kama yankan tagon mutum ɗaya suna daure su. Sai da suka daure su 8 suka tafi da su bayan gari. Suka je suka kwantar da su duk suka harbe su. Daga nan kuma suka dawo cikin gari suka dinga harbin mutane suna bi bayan gari da gonaki da mashina duk iya gudun ka sai an bi ka an je an harbe ka.
Sama'ila is now lost, separated from his 3 wives and family. He says he lost a brother and 15 relatives.
Kwarai akwai ƙanina wanda babanmu ɗaya da shi. Yanzu haka yana da iyali da sun kai 15 da an kashe shi kuma zuri'ar shi ce.
The community had to drag the bodies to nearby Tafoki to bury them. The people of Doma say they are now trapped. The bandits stopped them from farming, creating a severe food crisis. They need urgent help with food, shelter, and relief materials. The district head of Doma, Yahya Ahmed, confirms the death toll and pleads for assistance.
Already wanda na san wanda sun mutu mutum 23 wanda masu rauni wasu na katsina orthopedic wasu na kwanto duka wanda na yi majami'in 23 nan nake jin matasan su wanda ba su da mata ba sai su 4 ba da sauran masu gidajen kai ne.
He also raises a troubling question. Even when the army arrived and saw the bandits, residents claim no shots were fired to stop them.
Har sojoji an turo da sun je Doma amma ba a ba su komai su harbi wani ba. Haka ne suka je suka yawace mutum suka dawo su.
From a community that hoped for peace, only trauma and graves remain. This is the brutal story of Doma. In Katsina, for News Central, Rukaiya Jibia.
Stellar report there by Rukaiya Jibia, who joins us now via Zoom. Rukaiya, you're welcome to Breakfast Extra. Thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday morning.
Thank you, Mazino.
You're welcome. Rukaiya, so from your time on the ground in Doma, can you walk us through how this latest attack unfolded, the timing, the targets, and how long it lasted for? We heard 2 hours there, but what details didn't make your report?
I think I went to many places in Katsina where there was an attack. But I think Doma's incident is different. Why I said it's different is because of, the fear I saw in those people. I can say that this is the first time I went to a report and was scared as well because we followed a wrong route.
Ooh.
Because we don't know the road to Doma and we couldn't reach our fixer, so we had to follow a wrong route. So what happened is, I think the fear that the bandits instill in these people is on another level, Mazino, because they were shocked. When we went to Doma, I don't think there is up to maybe 12, 13 people in the village. The village was deserted. Everybody has left. So they were rushing us that, please, you guys should just leave this place. It's not safe. And the problem is, before you even reach Doma, there's an intersection. There's a town there. The name of the town is Maje, and this Maje is dominated by the bandits. They are residing there, and you have to pass through that for you to reach Doma. So I can say there are many things that didn't make to these reports. It's just the fear and the way these people are living. Because I wonder myself if these people are in Nigeria. You know, there are no good schools, no good road, nothing. So they rely solely on farming. And now they can't even farm in peace. They can't even live in their village in peace. Everybody is living, even the village head. We met him in Tafoki. He couldn't go to Doma and stay. So this place is not safe at all. I think that is what didn't make to the report.
Wow. Rukaya, I'm living this experience, these northern experiences vicariously through you because of the reports that you bring. And I believe that Inam would agree. After last week when you visited Jibia, this week Doma, I always like to know geographically where these places stand on the map, so we have a good idea of where we're talking about. If you're saying there are no security infrastructures, the locals are warning you to get out now, where exactly on the map is this place? How close is it to the border, for instance?
For Doma, I don't think Doma is close to any border. Jibia is the border between Nigeria and Niger, but Doma is not. Doma is in the middle of Katsina, because Doma is in Faskari. So it's in the middle of Katsina. I wonder what happened that these people don't get the security they deserve. Because the village head was telling us that army were deployed there. Immediately the attack happened. But he said they had to just get out of the village because they said they were not given the order to kill them.
Now, interesting. All right, let's hold that thought. Before I ask you the question, let's go on a quick break, and then we're back with Rukia after the break. Do stay with us.
And you're welcome back. Just before the break, we had Rukayat with us, News Central correspondent, and she was speaking from Doma, where she had been for a report regarding the situation in Kogi State there, where a fragile peace agreement had been made with the bandits. However, that seems to have broken down. Unfortunately, during the break, we lost Rukayat's connection. We will try to reconnect with Rukaya. Hopefully we'll be able to get her so we can have more details about what was happening or what's been happening inside of Kogi State and what happened with that peace deal with the bandits. Well, Inam, like I said last week, when you make such deals with bandits who have no scruples, no law guiding them, this is the kind of things that you should expect. Also, which bandit are you making an arrangement with? We know that there would be different little groups here and there, there and here. Even within themselves, like we learned from the JBI instance last week, they have warring little groups inside of the bandit community. So who am I talking to?
And I mean, I was even interested to ask her, if we're looking at the peace deal that was done in Jibia and the peace deal that's done now, are there any similarities? Is it the same deal? Because the region is not necessarily too far apart. So I wanted to know, in terms of breach, is it all round breaching, or what are the similarities there?
So these are two different places. So I'm not sure that these deals had anything correlating them, or they had no relationships. But it's just a measure of the desperate situation that the locals find themselves. But I can't believe, I don't think I can put myself in a situation where I'm living with constant fear. I'd go mental. I really would.
I mean, that's the problem. I mean, for me, you know it now, I still put a bit of a question mark over the whole ability for us to negotiate with terrorists. There's this saying, if you watch these American movies, whether it's White House down or whatever, there's always that statement that says, we don't negotiate with terrorists, you know? But we find ourselves doing that a lot here, and I'm just like...
Well, not the government. To be critical, the government hasn't gone into any such negotiation with these bandits or terrorists. The Jibia and Doma instances, these were initiatives that were made either by local authorities. How far into actual the security architecture these agreements go in, I do not know. We haven't, you know, I mean, the reports we've had have not absolutely dictated. However, these are desperate measures for peace in itself. Okay, fine, let's make an arrangement where you guys can walk freely and we're safeguarded. You know what? While you're doing that, why don't you just protect us? You know, it sounds like the Italian mafia at this point, especially where you have no security architecture, security state infrastructure for these people to rely on. We are unable to make that reconnection with Rukaya, unfortunately. But the report is on YouTube. You can find it if you go on our YouTube page to see that report by Rukaya Jibia in Doma, Kogi State. So we're going to return to what we were handling from before, which were the dailies. So if you do not mind, Ina, let's go. Let's take a little montage and we'll be back with the dailies. Welcome once again. From before, we were about to go into the front page for the Sunday Sun. So let's do that already. Sunday Sun newspaper for a Sunday morning here, 2027. APC PGF presidency intensifies search for Shetima's replacement. Northeast may get Senate President Speaker likely from South. International local pressure mounts on ruling party over same faith ticket. It'll still be tough, says Chieftain. At the very top, AU Summit, Nigeria must lead Africa a new global order, says Guterres. I like his name, by the way. VP attends the 39th opening ceremony. Did you want to share your reservations about Guterres and the AU Summit from yesterday? Did you have one? Yes, you did.
I don't even know if it's Guterres generally. I'm just optimistic. I think I had a conversation with Bongani yesterday, who is hopefully she'll join us.
Yeah,
today
hopefully
on the
she'll
show.
join us as we talk about the AU Summit.
And it was and she said it, and I agreed with it. The fact that we have so many summits. The African Union is supposed to stand for something, and that's clearly the unity of Africa. So hopefully we're optimistic to have a situation where it's not just talk. Eventually, everything that is being discussed and all the plans that are, in quote, discussed and in the talks are actually going to mature and materialize, and it's something that we see. Yes, Guterres is United Nations. I actually think this is his last term, actually. So for him to come in from a United Nations body and make some of the statements that he made, it's commendable. But the reality is that does the African Union have capacity? Are our leaders bold enough to implement many of the things that they say? And honestly, Mazino, it's very questionable. It's very questionable. The unity that African Union is supposed to stand for is not something that we see. And it's unfortunate. I think that's just my takeaway from it. I grew up in Addis Ababa. I think I did tell you at one point. Yes, I did. My mother was at the embassy, but she was with the African Union desk especially. So Mama had a lot of sleepless nights going to the AU, white paper documents and stuff that they had to put together because of the fact that they wanted the African Union to thrive and do what it was supposed to do. And sometimes it's a bit unfortunate to look at it and you're like, we've seen people sweat, and labor for the African Union to be what it is. And for the mere fact that it's actually not there yet, and it's actually deteriorating instead of maturing, is a bit sad as an African, honestly. It's a bit sad. It's a bit sad.
You know what I think the problem is? It's civilization. It's diplomacy. I say this because when you look at the Western nations, the UN and all, and of course America's actions, pulling out of all these bodies, you begin to think that diplomacy might be the time waster. Oops. Diplomacy might be the time waster here.
Honestly.
Maybe we should just unplug diplomacy and get to work.
Thank you.
Action is what we do not have.
For the first time, I actually commended Vice President Kashim Shettima when he was given the floor at the African Union, and he made a statement and said, in terms of health, by now, Africa should be at a point where, yes, our health systems are failing. Let's not even talk to the Nigerian health system, But for him to be open about the fact that it's failing And as Africans, we need to do something to make sure that these systems fail, because you cannot tell me that an entire continent was depending and a dependent
on aid. Yeah.
The entire continent? Come on.
Very sad. Very real, true realities here, Inam. Thank you very much. And yeah, your mother comes in useful when we have these conversations. We should have her on the show one time.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So still Sunday Telegraph front page, 2027 polls will consult over Ramadan overlap. Say INEC, apparently the holidays are overlapping over the days that have been chosen for the elections. Insecurity, terrorists kill 26 in renewed Borgu attacks. Afenifere expresses concern over Southwest status. And Tinubu return of Arugungu Festival means peace. Yay. Patutomi interview, Nigeria would have been different if Ekweme Falae won in 1999, says today's problem started with Obasanjo's presidency, accuses APC of deliberate division since 2015, declares Buhari era disastrous, why FG can't publish names of terror financiers. That I would like to read on page 3, 14, and 19 of the Sunday Telegraph.
Let's go now to the Sunday Punch. Up at the top there, how 36 Nigerian youths ended up in Russia-Ukraine war. This one is on page 4, and Mazino, it gets to me. It gets to me because oddly and interestingly enough, as the story begins to unfold, you begin to understand that African youth, African children were recruited to go and fight a war that had absolutely nothing to do with them.
Were they recruited, or were they... Most of them didn't know exactly what they were going to do. 2 were reported killed yesterday.
Look
2
at that.
soldiers were reported killed by Ukraine. The Ukrainian authorities actually identified them as Russian soldiers. Nigerians fighting for Russia.
Yes.
And it's all just out of desperation. I'm fighting a war here in Nigeria.
Poverty, the money, because they were promised good money.
Taxes.
Do you get me?
I'm running away from taxes.
And like I said, as the story begins to unfold, you understand that it wasn't just necessarily Nigerians. If you remember our former president, Jacob Zuma, his daughter.
Your former president.
He's yours too. His daughter was on trial for that.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yes, there were allegations that she was with a ring, a ring that conspired to recruit South Africans for Russian army.
And then last week as well, Kenya. Kenya also uncovered that the same thing was done to some of the Kenyan, children. And I say children because youth is still young. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what you just said. When trying times are extremely hard, what's the best that I can do? At least let me go and fight. Let me go to war. I may survive. I may not. If I survive,
I may be able to provide for the people back home.
Yes, but that also gets us to understand that sometimes you sit and you ask yourself a question to say, is this a needless war? Because if you don't have enough manpower within your countries to fight it, it's a needless war for you to go and recruit people from outside to come and fight for you.
This is under, the way they're recruited is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very simple word, but I can't remember it. They lied to these people recruited.
False pretenses.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. She's so smart. On the false pretenses, because from one detail from last year, women were being recruited to work at industries where they make drones. So some of these people simply think that they're going to go work at industries and only to be told, hey, our capacity is full. You join the infantry. That's what happens.
See, that's a story for that narrative is a topic that we need to discuss one other day as well. Because unfortunately, all these false narrative and false pretenses happen in Africa. It's in Africa that, oh, by the way, we said you're going to go and be this, and then once you get there, it's, oh, unfortunately.
So are we gullible?
We're very gullible. We're very gullible. And it's not even that Japa syndrome. It's just the gullibility of the fact that we have been sold a dream that says life is better on the other side. You know that saying the grass is actually not that greener on the other side? We've been sold that narrative. Yeah. Because of how our systems are failing here.
Look at you. They sold you that for Nigeria, and here you are working on New Central. What else do you have?
All right, let's go back to the punch.
It was too good. I had to use it.
And then right next there, it says U.S. military aircraft drops ammo in Borno. That's on page 4. I want to get into Donald Trump this morning. Let me behave myself.
Oh, please, why not?
Let me behave myself.
I get to do my impression.
Your Donald Trump impression?
Yeah.
Can we hear it?
Bigly.
Right next to the punch, it says leadership is about creating impact and value. That's the NADG Odukale. I can't really see that, but yeah. Newspaper of the year, the Daily Punches. Sunday Punches. And then it goes, Rabiu's bugged phone. Mazino, you touched on that a bit.
Yeah.
El Rufai under fire as probe calls rise. And then in blue there, it says oppositions predict implosion as APC set for convention. This is an interesting one, the convention that was debatable in our conversation last week, you remember? And the Nigeria bandits kill scores and burn houses. And then at 70, I won't stop joining protest for good governance. And this is Pat Utomi. I second that. Presidential aid demand prosecution. Right next to it, it says national security in grave danger as intelligence chief. And then legal experts cites constitutional breach. And then at the bottom right there, it says wasting away inside the struggle of Nigeria's jobless first-class graduate. And then, of course, help. Mortuary sold my wife's body few weeks to burial. Oh, wow. That's a Rivers man on page 27. And then right at the bottom there, it says Kwara fumes after terrorists parade over 170 abductees.
They are doing parades now. Show and tell, or grab and tell. This is very unfortunate. About Rabiu's tapped phone, Nuhu Ribaudu's tapped phone, it was for me the blatant nature with which it was said and the way it was shrugged off when it was called illegal. If you saw the interview, you'd understand. It was just so alarming. Let's move to the Sunday Independent now, shall we? Sunday Independent has this headline here, front and center, how APC is reshaping Nigeria's political landscape ahead of 2027. Not too much on the Sunday Independent. Another page here says 2027, PDP playing out the end game. Wike co-travelers engineered to weaken party. And Turaki-led NWC say, and we're trying to save PDP from marketers, says Wike Group. I love the PDP. It's filled with drama. And of course, the main character, Wike. Stakeholders laud sustained agitation for 2027 election transparency. Eastern Union backs calls for real-time e-transmission of poll results. And somewhere in the middle there, suspected terrorists renew onslaught in Niger communities. That's all for the Sunday Independent front page.
We can move to the Sunday Tribune as well. Sunday Tribune at the top there says, increasing terror attacks in Niger, Kwara, Ondo, Kogi, Wari, Afenifere.
Yeah.
And then it says, ask Southwest Edo other governments to buckle up. And then right next to it on page 13, it says, we are businessmen, not terrorists. Mieti Allah leader cries out. It's become a business transaction and endeavor to boycott and burn regions. That's a very interesting narrative, if you ask me. And then right underneath there, the headline, it says mixed reactions over 2027 election timetable. I'm very indifferent about this, Mazino.
Tell me.
I'm very, very indifferent about it. And I mean, it's not necessarily... I don't know. I'm very indifferent about the fact that we've slated elections to a certain period and then they have to be shifted because of the fact that I think, like they said, it's Ramadan. I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel about that. But I know that it's, I think, who was it? It was Atiku that said it makes more sense for the election date to be shifted because you want to make sure that you have enough people that are interested in voting.
Yeah.
So if the election is going to fall during the Ramadan period, because of what it means to the Islam community, people aren't necessarily going to be interested to go out and vote. So change the dates up until they finish observing Ramadan, and then we can go back to the elections.
I can fix that for you.
Tell me.
Let's slate elections for December 25th.
So you see, that's the problem.
Why is it a problem now?
Because that's Christmas Day.
And
Christians are not going to want to adhere to that.
so does that cure your indifference?
I mean, it does to a certain degree, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I thought about it. I sat and I thought about it for a while, and I'm just like...
Yeah, I think convenience is also part of the preparation, part of the construct, the architecture for elections. If it's conducive for everybody, you have more people out there.
I get you.
If I have to be celebrating and wake up lazy the next day after all my feasting the day before, I'm not going to want to. That's the point. So, you know, there was something I was going to touch on that front page before we go on our quick break, before we lead into other conversations. And I wanted to do that real quick. Increased terror attacks in Niger, Kwara, Ondo, Kogi, Warrior, Afenifere. What was I thinking about that? I can't remember. But it was supposed to be on the focus on security from the international community. And I'm thinking that we're seeing so much of this, apart from increased press reportage on the insecurity of Nigeria. But I think that they're taking advantage of the narrative that the Western world is pushing forward. Now, Mieti Allah being given a visa ban, any members of Mieti Allah actually is, when you hear it as a South African, what do you think? What does it sound like? It sounds like an ISWAP community.
Yeah.
Well, let me surprise you. What it is it's cattle herders. It's an association of cattle herders. So
I know Allah means God. What does the Mieti mean? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
We have to do our research.
It's a cattle herders association. Now, the interesting bit here is if the fight for Nigeria, if the aid we're getting from the U.S. is against Christian genocide, and cattle herders shouldn't be a target.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But here we have, and he questions the narrative that they're pushing forward. If you're preaching Christian genocide and you're excommunicating or you are banning herders, cattle herder association members from coming into your country, doesn't that say something?
There's a contradiction
something
somewhere
wrong
there.
with
Yeah, there is a contradiction there.
Yeah, the contradiction. Well, those are all the headlines that we have for this morning from the Sunday papers. Thank you very much for staying with us. We're going to proceed now into conversation, but let's take a quick break first, and we will be back with more conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back. The producers won't let us breathe today. It's information after information, but let's take you to Addis Ababa, the AAU summit. Now in Addis Ababa, heads of states and government have gathered for the 39th summit of the African Union at a time when Africa faces converging pressures. Armed conflicts continue in parts of the Sahel and Horn of Africa. Several economies are battling inflation, currency instability, and rising debt burdens. At the same time, Africa's population remains the youngest in the world, bringing both promise and urgency.
Now, summits like these or like this often produce declarations of unity, but citizens across the continent are increasingly asking whether these declarations translate into measurable security and economic progress. Mazino, this is exactly the same conversation that you and I were having before we actually went to this topic.
Sure. Also helps that we had a preview to the scripts before. So in any case, our correspondent Bogani Sisiba put together a package. Let's take a look at that from Addis Ababa.
Nigeria has called for a continental shift towards health security sovereignty in Africa, urging nations to build self-sufficient healthcare systems and reduce reliance on foreign assistance. Speaking at the 39th African Union Summit in Ethiopia, Vice President Kashim Shettima reaffirmed Nigeria's readiness to partner with African nations to build a continent capable of addressing its own health challenges.
It is a promise that the next health emergency will find Africa prepared, not pleading. A promise that our children's survival will not depend on the speed of decisions taken thousands of kilometers away. A promise that African governance, African enterprise, and African innovation can converge to secure African lives. Nigeria stands ready to collaborate with every member state of our union to make health security sovereignty measurable.
Today, Africa is still facing a challenge, 6 million shortage of health workers. If we don't do anything, if we don't stop that, we are facing a major trouble.
Ministers present at the forum also called for stronger political commitment and increased domestic financing, urging leaders to accelerate progress toward the continental target of 2 million community health workers by 2030 to strengthen Africa's healthcare resilience.
As we work towards 2 million community health workers by 2030, it's an idea that has been long-standing, but we have the tools and a path across the continent, not each of our countries, but working collectively. And I thank my brother, the DG Africa CDC, who is proposing that Nigeria host a certain, another conversation based on the investment case, so that we raise the resources to enable this dream to turn into reality.
Nigeria says it remains committed to leading efforts aimed at strengthening Africa's capacity to respond to present and future health challenges. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Welcome back from Addis Ababa there. We were hoping to have our correspondent Abogani Sisiba join us from Addis Ababa, but apparently there are connection issues from Ethiopia generally, so we are unable to connect with her. But from before the show, I and Inam were already talking about the instances being discussed inside of the AU this year with us there yesterday morning giving a speech, which we talked about. There were many instances and policy suggestions that were made at the AU this year. Amongst them, of course, we talked about health earlier this morning, where we were very surprised that the entire continent is still battling health issues. But then there's also security. And this is where the AU gets implicated. We've seen so much happen in Africa in the past 3 years. We've seen states leave the, especially here in West Africa, leave the West African Union and start an entirely new association, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And I'm wondering, in all of this, I did not hear a peep from the AU. When it comes to security, what exactly is the AU doing and where are its powers? What is it supposed to do as the African Union, the African body?
Yeah. I mean, Mazino, I agree with you on that. Again, like you said, we are aware of the situations that plague us as a continent. We comment on them, but we don't do anything about them. Like several situations, several scenarios, like you've said, the AU doesn't say anything. The best that they can do is they can just condemn a thing, but there is never like an action, or let's sit down and as Africans, how do we do this? I think there was an African forum that also took place in Kigali some few years ago, where African leaders were all in Kigali just trying to discuss what we can do about Africa. And the likes of Thabo Mbeki were there, and just Obasanjo as well. And when they sat down and they spoke about it, it was such a sad thing to hear what we call the greats sit down and say, we failed. We failed. And I think it just starts there. We have failed. And how can we remedy the situation to avoid a situation where countries, African countries or African heads of state are pulling away and they're building their own consortium to say, well, if it's just the three of us, let's just be mindful of our own region. ECOWAS is there, SADC is there. This is our own platform. What can we build to make sure that at least on our end, it's not that bad? And it wasn't really supposed to be like that.
I hear you there. I think one missed opportunity from the AU this year was the fact that we did not discuss a unified African currency.
100.
Why? Because of the attention Africa is getting economically. And the race to topple the dollar. We have our oil now. We produce it in Nigeria. We can determine how we sell. We're not talking about this as a union, as an African union.
Something.
Which I hope we have time to answer it. What is it?
Do you feel like, this might be a sensitive thing to say, especially because you brought up the currency thing. I think the last time the currency conversation came up, thank you, it was during Libya's time. And
we'll have this conversation. We have the news coming up right now. So let's do the news, and then we'll bring back that conversation between myself and Inam. We'll be back. You're welcome once again. It's the top of the hour for 9 o'clock, and this is our first bulletin here for News Central on Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. We begin with security matters. Bandits have killed no fewer than 32 people in a series of attacks across Stugum Makeri, Kansoko, and Pisa communities in Borgu local government area, Niger State. The first assault occurred at Tunga Makeri around 3 a.m., leaving 6 dead and several homes destroyed. Later, the attackers struck Kansoko and Pisa at about 6 a.m., killing 26 people and setting buildings, including a police outpost, ablaze. The exact casualties in Pisa remain unclear. Residents said the assailants, numbered over 200, operated for several hours despite the communities being roughly 200 kilometers from the Nigeria Air Force Base in New Busa. Security forces have been deployed and rescue operations are ongoing. And the Edo State Police Command has intensified its war against criminal networks across the state, arresting dozens of suspects and dismantling kidnapping camps in forest hideouts. At a press conference in Benin City, The Commissioner of Police outlined what he described as an intelligence-driven offensive backed by aerial surveillance and inter-agency collaboration. News Central, Samanzi Bazwaye here reports.
Speaking to journalists at the command's headquarters, Edo State Commissioner of Police, Monday Abonika, described the past weeks as a period of sustained high-risk operations targeting kidnappers, armed robbers, cultists and murder suspects. According to the commissioner, from January 2026 alone, 13 suspected murder suspects have been arrested, 14 suspected armed robbers are in custody, 87 suspected kidnappers apprehended, 15 suspected cultists arrested. Beyond the arrests, the command rescued 30 kidnapped victims, many unharmed. Security operatives also recovered 6 stolen vehicles, 3 motorcycles, and 39 mobile phones. A significant number of weapons were also recovered.
From the forest of Edo North to the highways and flashpoints of Edo Central, we have sustained an unrelenting intelligence-driven onslaught against kidnappers, armed robbers, cultists, murder suspects, and every organized crime network that seeks to threaten the peace of the good people of Edo State. Let me be clear today that Edo is totally out of bounds to criminals. No forest will be too thick to overcome, no hideout too remote, and no network too fortified to break into.
The commissioner also acknowledged the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, for approving aerial support, as well as Governor Monday Okbeolu.
I also acknowledge the support of His Excellency Senator Monday Okbeolu, the Executive Governor of Edo State, whose magnanimous donation of a squadron of drones and other logistic support has significantly enhanced our operational capacity.
With officers now trained in real-time drone investigation, the command says it can monitor flashpoints, track fleeing suspects, and conduct precision forest clearance missions. In Edo, for News Central, Ameze Bazwayi.
Now, away from security to election matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission has clarified the rationale for the dates set for the 2027 general elections following stakeholders' concerns over potential clashes with national holidays. Now, in a statement issued on February 13, 2026, the Commission said the timetable complies with the 1999 Constitution, the Electoral Act 2022, and INEC's regulations. Under current rules, presidential and National Assembly elections are scheduled for Saturday, February 20, 2027, while governorship and State House Assembly elections will be held 2 weeks later on Saturday, March 6, 2027. INEC acknowledged concerns about overlapping holidays and said consultations are ongoing. The Commission may seek legislative adjustment if necessary, assuring that any changes will remain constitutionally compliant and will support voters' participation and credible elections. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has announced that it will reconvene for an emergency sitting on Tuesday, February 17, 2026, to consider matters arising from the recent release of the 2027 general elections timetable by Independent National Electoral Commission. The announcement was made in a statement signed by the House spokesperson, Akin Rotimi. He explained that members were notified through an internal memorandum issued by the Office of the Speaker late Friday, highlighting the constitutional and national importance of the development and the need for timely legislative attention. The statement emphasized that the emergency sitting demonstrates the House's resolve to respond promptly to issues with far-reaching implications for Nigeria's democratic process. And away from that, President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated key projects executed by Kebbi Governor Nasir Idris. The president, who arrived in Kogi State on Saturday, also headlined the 61st edition of the 2026 Arugungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival as special guest of honor. The festival, regarded as one of Africa's most celebrated cultural events, takes place along the historic Matanfada riverside and has been recognized by UNESCO as a tangible cultural heritage of humanity, highlighting Nigeria's rich cultural heritage and tourism potential. And the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has signed a memorandum of understanding with two key private development companies to develop the popular Jabi Lake area into a world-class tourism destination. The minister, during the event in Abuja, also warned land speculators transforming the original use of allocated lands within the capital, saying that their days are numbered. Here, Amadine Uyi reports on the instance.
With the Federal Capital Territory now boasting of world-class infrastructure, many, however, have criticized the FCT administration for not doing much in the tourism sector. In a bold move, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has commenced the process to change this perception. The minister, while meeting with key developers from the private sector, expressed worry over citizens' attitude to keeping to terms of agreement signed with the administration, saying that it frustrates efforts to reposition the capital.
Prior to this period, people applied for land. Some people said for mixed development. Some people said for active recreation. Before you know it, they again apply to government for other things or become land speculators going to sell government land. This particular assignment today is to let the public know that it is no longer going to be business as usual.
While signing a memorandum of understanding with the companies for the development of a recreational hub at the Jabi Lake Resort, he urged them to keep to the terms of the agreement.
This is a strategic land situated at Jabi, where we have the Jabi Lake. Today we have signed this agreement. We believe that you will apply and do what is with the memorandum of understanding.
The team assured that they will not disappoint the FCT administration.
Today marks an important milestone for Suburban Broadband Limited. We are deeply honored by the support and vision of the Honorable Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Chief Barrister Nyesom Wike. We are committed to building infrastructure that will support innovation, connectivity, and economic expansion within FCT.
We believe strongly that we will meet up with the timelines given and we will turn Abuja into a destination city as well. We believe that the development that we'll bring into Jabi Lake will be one that will compete with Times Square, with the Dubai Fountain Water Show. It will be a point where tourists will want to come to.
The project is expected to be completed before the end of the year. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And that's all the news this top of the hour. We've got more through the course of the day, but it's still Breakfast Extra. Let's get into those conversations. We'll be back.
And today on our big story, we bring you a big but necessary story. Nicotine is quietly reshaping youth health in Nigeria. Once associated mainly with cigarette smoking, nicotine consumption has definitely evolved. Today, vaping devices, flavored cartridges, and other delivery systems have made access easier and addiction less visible. Health experts warn that what appears modern and harmless may carry long-term consequences.
Now, the concern is not just about habit, but also about biology. Adolescence is a critical stage of brain development. Exposure to addictive substances during this window can actually affect behavior and also concentration and long-term health outcomes as well. So, joining us is Professor Alera Roberts of the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Doctor, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday morning. It's always grand to have someone as grand as you here on the show today.
Those devices, as you can see them on the table,
good to have you,
are sleek.
Now,
flavored in
I would like to know, from your clinical and academic experience, doctor, how rapidly is nicotine exposure actually increasing among Nigerian youth?
Well, sadly, it's a rather unreported condition that we're talking about, and it appears to be going up really rapidly. We've got studies in Ibadan and other parts of the country that show prevalence rates of as little as 3% to as high as 18%, with the average looking at about 11.4% use among adolescents in Nigeria. And that is rather alarming because, 20 years ago, we didn't even have any prevalence rate, or prevalence rates were less than 1-2%. So there's definitely an increase, and the speed at which it is growing, we cannot scientifically say, but it is definitely at an alarming rate. The problem, of course, is the underreporting.
Well, scientifically, you may not be able to tell, but I could give you a testimony here that I smoked for a good 2 decades, but I had a scare when I switched to vaping. And I'm bringing that up because it wasn't as bad when I was a smoker, but when I switched to vaping, I actually realized and noticed very tangible changes in my health. And we see this transference, this transition from actual cigarettes to vaping, especially amongst the youth. And I'm wondering what concerns, what policies are in place, what bodies are looking at these instances and making changes.
Well, Mazino, you are very brave to come out and give a personal testimony, and you're very right. Because while nicotine itself does pose significant neurological risk, the practice of vaping adds an additional host of toxic substances to the brain. People don't realize that the aerosol produced by e-cigarettes is not merely water vapor. It contains a complex mixture of chemicals which have demonstrated neurotoxic potential. And what we're seeing is that, the social marketing for vaping and e-cigarettes, that it's a less harmful alternative to cigarette smoking, actually targets adolescents. And that is where the danger really lies.
Doctor, if I may, before we go on a break very quickly, you mentioned that the danger really lies when it starts within the youth. Can you give us, outside of the fact that everybody knows that if I'm going to smoke, I'll probably have like lung cancer or whatever within the lungs, can you give us a bit of a more scientific explanation as to what the implications are, especially when you start smoking at an early age?
The issue with the addiction to nicotine is that it's what we call a negative effect, in the sense that you continue seeking out the substance to reduce the negative effects of the withdrawal. So that's the problem. You smoke and you've got this high, you've got all the neurotoxic and neurological changes going on. And then when you don't smoke for a while, and for a while maybe as little as a couple of hours, that negative effects of withdrawal makes you feel antsy, you start, feeling so bad, you seek out another cigarette. And that's the problem. So the cravings and the withdrawal symptoms are are much faster in the younger people because their brains are younger and their brains need these withdrawal effects, find these withdrawal effects more devastating, much faster.
Doctor, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about marketing of these products and also policy changes that need to be made. But let's take a very short break now, and when we come back, we'll address those. We'll be back. And you're welcome back. From before, we were talking about nicotine addiction and its prevalence in Nigerian youth. We had with us Dr. Alero, who's been talking to us about the disadvantages, especially at starting at a very young age. Doctor, before the break, I wanted to talk about marketing and the concerns that I have with marketing of these products. Back in the 90s, I believe that there were policies that make it impossible for you to advertise on traditional media. But we still see that cigarettes are still openly sold. There might be very little regulation around them. There was supposed to be a policy where you can't sell single units, but only in packs. This was to make it maybe unattainable by youth. at the time. But now we see the alternative vaping coming into the culture, and it seems to have taken over. In fact, it's looked at as a way of life, as a certain, I don't know what the word is in, and what word can I use when it represents a certain class of people. So we haven't done anything about vaping in our policy reforms when it comes to health. What is being done? What do we not know about?
Culture has normalized vaping and e-cigarette smoking and kind of made it look cool, become socially acceptable. Tobacco and the e-vaping, e-cigarette industries have, leveraged on this to employ very marketing strategies that target the large youth population, target youth vulnerabilities. They've got social, I don't want to name names, that where pro-vaping content is acceptable and is prevalent and is promoted by influencers. I mean, everybody wants to be a social media influencer and so on. Of course, the wide array of products that are available, I walk into most supermarkets around where I live, and I'm shocked. Right behind the cash register, you can see flavored, and they just look so attractive. They smell sweetish, they smell florally, they smell good, and they are there. These are the e-vaping products that are there, and of course, because it's now seen as almost as a status symbol among the adolescents, that reinforces the peer culture that's going on. So it's something that parents, caregivers, we really do need to take a very strong, hard look at and identify that gap in both policy formulation and policy implementation, enforcement and sanctions.
Doctor, I wanted to just piggyback on what you just said, especially from the community and the need for, parents as a whole. It takes a village. What are the societal breaches in society that make it an easy thing for the youth to find it easily accessible to smoke, to acquire all of these necessary things? Where is community failing? Before we even get to the government, where are the breaches in community that allow this to take place?
Thank you, Inam. That is actually the most important question. And, I must put my cards on the table here. I'm a public health physician. So whatever I say, I'm saying first and foremost to the public. Because ultimately, as an individual, as a member of the public, we owe a responsibility to ourselves for our own health. And I think the first gap, because since we discussed this and I looked back on it, our first gap is that parents, caregivers, a certain generation are completely unaware of what is going on. They're completely unaware of what adolescents are doing. And we think that, the only crime they have is that they are pressing phone all the time, without us actually being aware of what they're doing on those devices, of what they're doing, who they're talking to, who is talking to them, because we see them in the house, we see them at home, we see them, nearby. We don't realize that they're actually speaking with the world and being influenced by the world right under our noses. So the first thing I'm going to tell the public, the community, the first failing we have is we are aware of what the young ones are getting on with right under our noses.
Dr. Roberts, it's very hard for the older generation to understand some of these things that are happening now. While they were used to sticks being smoked, now we have devices that you can charge that light up and then you can still. So if you can help us, how exactly, when it comes to vaping, does that work? We know it's vapor being inhaled and exhaled. How does the nicotine get in there, and how does it affect you anatomically and neurologically?
That is a whole 5-year medicine course. So do we have time for that? I mean, that is a whole 5-year pharmacy course on the neurobiology of addictions and what the different, because there are so many toxic substances particularly in the e-cigarettes, and that even go beyond what the nicotine is doing. So we really don't have that much. But what is sufficing to say that those toxic effects on the brain are almost permanent.
Oh, wow.
That the damage is that takes the brain a very long time to recover. We know that nicotine addiction, e-vaping addiction are on, off, even despite many years of not smoking. They are at the highest risk of, as we say, falling off the wagon much faster than any other addiction. And that's the problem that we have. The pathway to recovery is very challenging. Nicotine addiction is classified actually as a chronic relapsing disorder. The changes to the brain are many and myriad, and it affects what we call the frontal cortex, the reward section of the brain. That's part of the brain that's always seeking out a reward.
So, doctor, today I need you to help us set the record straight, because many young people see, first of all, vaping as safer than cigarettes. Others, if you try and have the argument about vaping not safer, then they'll tell you about shisha.
No.
And they'll say, well, this is a bit safer. Can you set the record straight for us today with the vaping and the shisha? How significantly accurate is this belief?
It is wrong. There's no accuracy about it at all. Vaping is significantly more dangerous than cigarette smoking, nicotine, in terms of the fact that it's far more insidious. It presents itself as being harmless, socially acceptable. Both the shisha, the vaping, the e-cigarettes, that in effect makes it far more dangerous. It's so many things. The hidden dangers, the fact that there are so many more additional toxic substances that are produced by e-cigarettes that affect the brain, and that damage to the brain can be pretty much almost permanent if we're not careful. I mean, we've got heavy metals, lead, arsenic, we've got carcinogens, even formaldehyde, the chemical that we use to preserve dead bodies. Benzenes, of course, the synthetic coolants and flavoring agents. We have no idea of the long-term effects on the brain that some of these substances cause. And when we are introduced, when the young and adolescent brain is introduced at an early age, don't forget that the brain is continuing to mature, but the prefrontal cortex, that region that is important for impulse control and decision making, is the one that is being hit the hardest. That's the one undergoing significant development in the mid-teens to mid-20s, and that is when you're damaging the prefrontal cortex with all these chemicals, and there's another danger. Even if the adolescent here, himself or herself, are not smoking, there's the danger of second-hand and even third-hand exposure that we are not even sure of. So you've gone to a party, others are smoking, not you, but you're in the vicinity, you're inhaling all these substances, and you're getting your brain damaged at the same time. It's frightening. It's really frightening.
It is very, very concerning, Doctor. While we're talking about the variant or the alternatives from e-cigarettes, from cigarettes to e-cigarettes, there's also another school of thought. I don't have a better way to explain it, but where people believe that substances like marijuana are actually natural and hence are safer than e-cigarettes or cigarettes themselves. Could you dispel that myth, please?
I will have to dispel that myth. In the end, it's very simple. There are a lot of substances that are natural that we do not take. Everybody will tell you about poisoned mushrooms, mushrooms that are poisonous as opposed to mushrooms that are edible. The fact that they are natural, we know there are some species of mushrooms that you must not take. And children are advised and warned, don't just pick anything and put it in your mouth. There are berries that grow on trees that we know are not safe. They occur naturally. So why would we think that simply because marijuana occurs naturally, it's safe for consumption? It's not. We know the damage that it can do, short-term and long-term. So the problem is that, if parents are not aware of what is going on, and they are not paying attention to what is going on, both outside the home and within the home, then we are getting a lot more of these adolescent addictions going on.
So, Doctor, just to clarify on that, because we know that in some instances now, marijuana is prescribed to sometimes chronically ill patients as well.
Exactly.
Can you give us an understanding as to, is that a short-term prescription and what exactly it's supposed to treat?
Again, shall we go back to 5 years of medicine and 5 years of pharmacy? These are, you are right. There are a lot of substances, not substances, the right word I should use are products. You know, plant products that are very, very useful in differing doses and different combinations. So yes, but I don't know that it's a subject I want to take on for the public, but yes, there are some instances where we use drugs that can be potentially harmful in specific doses at specific times for specific conditions. One of the things you have to think about are the cancer drugs, for example. Extremely poisonous, extremely damaging, but yes, they have some use. They have uses in the treatment of cancer, but please first have the cancer, be diagnosed by a doctor, and be prescribed, because the side effects can be really harsh. And that's the same way we need to look at the use of medical marijuana, medical cannabis, and so on. They've got a great deal of use, particularly in palliative care, end-stage, end-of-life care for people with cancer. But that doesn't mean that it is there and it's useful for the whole public.
Dr. Alera Roberts, I want to say thank you very much. To add to that, I think there's also the comparison to be made with vaccines and the actual disease that they treat. The vaccines are actually viruses themselves. Dr. Alera Roberts, thank you for this quick course in the use of nicotine and how bad it might be for us, especially as youths. It's always a pleasure to have you, like I said from before, and we're looking forward to another session where we get to have you here. Hopefully it won't be a Sunday, but if we do ask on a Sunday, we know you will be coming now, won't you?
For the public, I will make myself available.
Thank you.
That's why we love you. Thank you very much, Dr. Alera Roberts. Thank you.
Whoosh. Interesting.
Now let's take a break. We've got more conversations inside this hour and the one to come. Do stay with us. It's Breakfast Extra. Hey, welcome back. Still Breakfast Extra here. My name is Mazino, co-host, of course, Inem Maso. Now, every year, February 11 is marked globally as the International Day of Women and Girls in STEM, a day set aside to recognize the role of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, just in case you didn't know what that was, and also to confront a stubborn reality that girls are still underrepresented in fields shaping the future. Globally, women make up just over a third of STEM graduates. In Africa, that number drops even further in certain technical fields like engineering, artificial intelligence, and robotics. The gap is not always about ability. Often it begins with exposure. A young girl who is never educated, never encouraged, never asked to experiment or to build or to question or to imagine herself in these spaces slowly learns to exclude herself.
Now, in Nigeria, that exclusion carries consequences beyond gender. It affects innovation, economic growth, and national competitiveness, because the world we are entering in will not be driven by muscle, but by ideas, by code, by design, and by invention. This morning, we explore how early exposure, education, and opportunity can reshape the future, not just for girls, but for the country. And to enlighten us more on this conversation, we are joined here in studio by Doris Obeki, an early childhood educator and girl-child advocate. Also, we have Olutoyosi Egunjobi, the Chief Operations Officer at Credit Bank. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. For the first time, actually, it's a lot of women and just one man.
It's okay. I can take the back seat on this one. But welcome, ladies. Good to have you.
Who do I start with? Doris, let's have you first. Thank you again for joining us. Now, from early childhood education, how early do the detections, how necessary are the detections and, of course, the preparations about who belongs in science begin to form?
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Doris once again here with you. Thank you, Mazino.
Great.
Thank you, Inam, for having me. And it's a very good opportunity to have this program where we now begin to understand the role of girls and women in our entirety, how they form and how they shape on our future in terms of education and also STEM in particular. Yes, well, I would say early detection and exposure for girls matters a lot because we know that from statistics and data-driven facts, we know that girls had always been marginalized, and that had given us the backseat to say, okay, what can these girls do? We have the societal implications, we have the personal, and we also have the family belief that will say, no, girls are not supposed to be trained, they're not supposed to be educated. And you see, you have some culture that will say, at a certain age, you get married, and at the end of the day, what do you see? The class is empty for girls. And before now, we've always had this male-dominated classroom to say the boys should be educated because they will have to carry the family name, the country and everything. They have to project them to the future. But then it's really taking a very, the paradigm is shifting because now we're having more girls being educated. We're having more girls being exposed because now they now believe in themselves, because before now the girls really don't believe in themselves. Now, from the early childhood perspective, we run a kind of a curriculum and a kind of a curriculum that will project more girls, so to say, to begin to enjoy, to begin to see, oh, actually, the myth that we usually have before to say the science is the place for the boys, it's not there because everybody have the equal opportunity to experiment, to see, to work hands-on with all the gadgets. In terms of Lego, you see in the classroom, you see even babies begin to build, begin to see things, and begin to experiment and begin to understand that, yes, yes, we can actually do this. So it's not really now that the male are dominating, but everybody's having that equal opportunity to
Awesome. I mean,
to walk through.
Toyosi, thank you again for joining us. I'd like to hear from you, especially because you are coming from not just a finance, but a leadership position. How visible is female representation in technology and the finance sector?
Okay, thank you for that question. Olutoyosi here again.
Olutoyosi, we're very sorry, but we seem to have lost your audio or something wrong with the connection. We're wondering what that might be. If you could check on your side while we do the same here as well, but we cannot hear you again. We did have your visual for a moment, but then we lost your audio on it. So if you'll keep that question in mind and rectify whatever the issue is, we will come back to you and you'll answer that. I hope Inam doesn't forget the question that you asked. Can you hear us now? Grand, we have you back now, Toyosi. Please go ahead.
Yes. I can hear you clearly.
Good.
Okay, so I was saying that there's been major improvement from where we were years ago to now, but it often feels performative, just like a box to just tick the box saying, oh, we have maybe 3 men in leadership and then we have 2 women in leadership positions, or you have a board of 4 men and then 1 woman in as members of the board of directors. So it often feels performative, like let's just tick the box. I believe that there's still a lot of room for improvement. And, even during events, when we have these events, you see that it's more just like PR related and just for marketing purposes than intentionality. So I believe that there's a lot of work to be done. We are definitely way better than where we were before, but there's still a lot of room. There's a lot of room. Visibility isn't just about having a seat at the table, but also being able to make decisions that affect all the genders and that provide a form of improvement for everyone. So it's very important to have that balance for women and men.
Olutoyosi, you said something very interesting there, and I wanted to jump on that, but only this time I'm going to be asking Ms. Obeki here, who's with us. You talked about this quota system. specifically, but you talked about a quota system where corporate structures can actually have certain amounts or certain seats reserved for women, which is great. But then again, nothing changes in a vacuum, and that's going to bring me into the studio here where I ask you about this. If we are preparing girls for these kinds of positions in STEM and we're getting them more interested earlier on, what are we doing when it comes to the other gender? Because it's not just a female issue, it's the fact that we also have a sense in Nigeria here where we believe that the male child are supposed to have some certain kind of, what do you call it now, responsibility, while the female gender has a different kind of responsibility. So if you're changing the way the female child thinks, what about the male gender, where we actually think that this is your place in a home, you're not supposed to be in such and such structural arrangements corporately? What are we doing to balance it out?
Okay, yeah, like I said before, now the girls are beginning to get interested in education, and they're beginning to know that, oh, this really is not about the male gender now. Now we're in a world where everybody is very much important. The girls, the boys, everybody is important, even from the home.
Is that orientation changing with the male gender, the boys? Are we telling them that, oh no, women are not supposed to simply be in the kitchen, they're also supposed to be in places of technology?
Yeah, you know, before now...
What exercises are in place to make that orientation when it comes to the boy child change? So we're not expecting them to be in the kitchen, we're expecting to open an office door and see them in places of power when it comes to technology especially.
Okay, not because what we're doing is, you know, then the boys always say, oh, this is for me, especially when it comes to science, technology. We have females that are mechanics. We have, like the classroom now, we're beginning to see more of males coming into the teaching profession. Because then it used to be, oh, we're all ladies, we're all girls. Oh, the only profession for the girls should be the teaching or the nursing profession. But it's really changing. We even have men that are nurses now. So everything is changing, and it comes with more of orientation to say, oh, when we do this, we don't have to restrict, even we as teachers, we don't have to say, oh, okay, you don't do this particular activity because you're a girl, you don't have to do this activity because you're a boy. No, everybody, the same equal exposure, the same equal opportunity to do everything right. And we don't have to say, oh, okay, now we're going out, the boys stay. Everybody will have to go out.
So is that change coming from an academic effort or a cultural effort, from the way families approach this concept? Are we buying dolls for boys now and trucks for cars for girls?
We're not actually, because, from the classroom
because that's a very integral part of orientation. When you look at it, when we say, oh, dolls are for girls, you grew up with Barbies.
We have to also be very careful here. Because
oh, no, I did karate. I did
actually play football when I was in school. Do you know then I actually played football?
Interesting.
Yes, because now I just believe from a personal perspective that really I can actually do this. So I have this mindset that, oh, if a boy can actually kick the round ladder, I can also do that. So I was actually a footballer, and I still enjoy playing football till now.
I hate it.
Toyo, see, if I may, I love the question that Mazino just gave to Doris, and I'd like to direct it in your direction as well, just to try and get your stance out of it in terms of education and conditioning, because I think it's it's a mind conditioning kind of thing. Is that something that is already being done, not even just for women, but for boys? And I say this because I think one of the reasons why Mazino brought that question is we have a problem when it comes to gender equality, you know, but I've come to find a situation where we're trying to solve the problem with women, but like Mazino said, we're not involving men in the problems that we want to solve. We want to solve them as women. So how are we bringing men in and trying to get them to understand that this is actually, it's okay for this to take place. You're not inferior as a man when structures like this take place.
So I think that stakeholder engagements are very important. So when you have like conferences and seminars, don't exclude the men. Same way women don't want to be excluded from events that are supposed to have like a balance. Don't exclude the men. Conversation is very important. Constant communication and conversation. It would take some time for people to get used to these things, but the moment you have conversations, advocacy, and because I believe that oftentimes is people don't know what they don't know. It's not because they're trying to be intentionally biased or intentionally evil or wicked. They just don't know what they don't know, or they're not paying attention to it. But the moment you bring their attention to it through constant communication and conversation, I believe that there would definitely be a shift. But involving men in conversation about women is also very important. Because, yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the impact that women have made in tech now. If you can, I don't know if you have the numbers or any stats that you can refer to, but how much progress, how much change have women specifically made when it comes to tech? How much have women in Nigeria made when it comes to tech? How much changes?
So I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but we definitely are seeing women making a lot of impact in tech space or in organizations that have enabled technology. For example, we have Funke Opeke, who started Main One. We have the likes of Odo Iwini of Piggyvest. We have the likes of myself as well, so I would also give myself some credit because I work in the tech space. And there are so many examples out there to say that, you know, women also can do what men can do. It's not a competition. It's just that there are real-world problems to be solved, and men and women can definitely solve these problems. We cannot deny the fact that technology has come to stay, and we do need everybody's brains and hands on deck to be able to solve real-world problems. So we do have so many examples. These are the examples that I can give right now, but there's so many. If we do our research, we'll definitely find a lot, both in Nigeria and definitely abroad as well. So we have a lot of tech-enabled organizations in health tech, in ed tech, in insurtech, fintech as well. There's so many. Yeah.
It's a tech world. Atoyesi, can you just enlighten us again? Kudos to you and what you do. But I'd like to know, woman to woman, what are some of the challenges that you have faced being a woman in a grossly male, dominated industry? What are the challenges, and how have you as a female overcome the challenges?
So I think that oftentimes one of the biggest issues or bias would be that when a woman is of childbearing age and she gets married and she has a family, then she's not able to be as productive as she should be. Well, I'm not married, but I've seen people who have faced that. Oftentimes, I've attended interviews, and one of the questions they've asked me is, what are your plans for marriage and starting a family? And I know it's not from a place of, we're concerned about your marital future, but it's like, okay, if we bring you on board and then you decide to get pregnant in the next 6 months, what then happens? There's also, women having to prove themselves as credible and worthy for a particular position, while men just strolling and then they feel like the world is at their feet. I believe that women should definitely do more in ensuring that they're confident enough and knowing that they're worthy enough to be in those spaces. But these are the few, barriers that I've seen. And I've also been in conversation where people are like, this is why I don't like to hire women, because the woman got pregnant and she had to go and have it. Like, okay, so if you hire women, you want to have a male-dominated organization. I would say that the men are really trying, but there's this, like I said before, there's a lot of work to do, but we cannot deny the fact that these barriers are still there.
Awesome. Doris, I'd like to come to you, especially because I know that you are more within the education sector. Now, based on what Toyosi has just said, you are in the education standpoint, so the conditioning of the mind again. When we're looking at the career side of things and the family side of things, in Nigeria especially, what are we teaching our women to prioritize?
Wow.
Family or career? Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, for both, thank you. For both are very important. Career, family, However, we just need to find a balance. So we don't allow one suffer for the other. Like you're a woman and you know, oh, I want to actually build a career in education. It still does not mean because you're of the childbearing age, you shouldn't. Everything has its own space. When it's time for you to give birth, yes, you're pregnant, you're coming to work. Yeah, we know the health implications will come in, but at the same time, like I said, there should be a balance. Now, when you are giving back and you resume back to work, you should also find a way to try to cover up for all those lapses. Yes, some employers will say, no, I wouldn't want to employ someone who is of childbearing age, but we can't actually run away from it. We need to also give birth to those children that we're going to teach in the classroom. So if we don't give birth, who do we teach? So we just have to find a balance to say, okay, I'm pregnant. If I'm to resume by 7 and I can't be at work by 7, I should communicate. That's where communication comes in. I should communicate. It's okay. Oh, I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to work. Then when you come back, I mean, you don't have to like pretend or behave like, oh, this thing is really weighing me down, because that is where the employees now begin to see those lapses, those loopholes to say, oh, this person is not actually competent enough. But sometimes it's just nature that comes calling. And when it comes calling, we just have to answer the call. And then we take it off from there
Doris,
again.
Thank you for the answer. I want to rephrase it because there's something that I'm looking for. The education of women understanding in terms of priority, because you find a situation where I've had conversations with women. I don't know if maybe those kind of conversations would have come up with you, where you find a woman who is very competent and capable, but you find a situation sometimes where they don't want to break the ceiling because they feel like if I accomplish this amount, it'll be hard for me to get married, right? So the education side of things, to say in terms of priority, it's absolutely okay for someone to say, I prioritize family. I want to be a family woman before I am a career woman. How do we educate these women to find this balance that you speak about?
That's where planning now comes in. Now, I want to get married, and I know I just started work, and I need to get to the peak of my career in the next 5 years. That does not mean I'm not going to give birth, but I still have to work. I have to understand that if I don't give it what it takes in terms of like I said, planning, I plan to know that in the next 5 years or 6 months, I'm going to achieve.
What structure does one have to put in place? What structure do I have to put in place to make sure that I achieve here in my career, and while not neglecting family responsibilities? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, in the sense that I have my family. Like I have three girls. When I'm going to work, I know, oh, they are going to eat. I know I have to wake up on time to prepare their meal. I know, okay, by 2 o'clock, they have to be back from school. Who stays with them? What do I do? Where do I keep them? Because I know by 4 I'm going for.
That in itself exposes an imbalance. Because if the concern of the woman is always about family, and then she still has to carry on her shoulders career as well, men don't often have that kind of pressure.
I agree.
Yeah, men don't have that kind of pressure. But then we just have to understand. It's a two-way thing, like we all said. We're talking about the gender here. The family needs to understand that, okay, I am working, but not to the detriment of my family. I'm also going to keep my family, not to the detriment of workplace. So as an individual, you just have to find a way to say, okay, what works for me? What structure am I going to put in place for me to be able to guide my family and also keep my job?
Women are superhuman.
It's a very dicey situation. I'll let you ask
no one cap fits all. We'll just have to find
I'll let you ask the next question to Toyosi, but I wanted to add, especially with what she said, because I had that experience as well. I have a daughter. I'm a single mom, and I remember I was working for an accounting firm back back home, and there was an emergency that needed me to leave the office and attend to my daughter at school. And the first thing my boss said to me was like, literally, I don't know if he was present or alert at the time, and he made a comment and he was like, sheesh, man, that's why we prefer to hire single women.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, bro, you sheesh me all you want, you know? But I do understand the fact that there is, like Toyosi said, there is so much more to prove with regards to the career, to say I am career driven and I'm career focused, and having a family is not an inconvenience to my career. And I think those are one of the reasons why we asked that question is because those are some of the disciplines that I feel like we need to teach our women if we want to get into the places of career and power.
Yes, a superwoman, but at the same time, like I say, you just have to strike a balance. Like I remember when I was pregnant of my second daughter, and I have to go for
antenatal.
Not really. I have to go for a course.
No course. Okay.
You know, what did I just do? I know if I have to, it's okay. Oh, I'm pregnant. Let me not go now. It's going to truncate my career advancement. But I have to put structures in place. Okay, when is it convenient for me to go? Do I go in the morning and come back to work, or do I come to
Obviously,
work?
there's a lot of planning that goes in, and it's not just one that you take as an individual, as a female.
Yes,
it's a family
the
thing.
family thing.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to understand. Okay, this works best for us, and we just have to, you know, let it.
So that's the cultural side of things. Let me come to Lutoyosi now. On the corporate side of things, I'm wondering what policies exist inside of tech that can help women find this balance that we've just argued about. Toyosi.
So I think one of the policies, and I don't think it's just tech related, but I think one of the good things as well is the fact that we now, because of tech or technology, we're able to work remotely or hybrid. So a lot more women are able to work from home and get very good paying jobs while also being able to take care of their family. So finding that balance. Of course, the maternity leave for women who are pregnant and about to, you know, have their babies and stuff like that, but that has been in place for a long time. I think more companies, maybe not in Nigeria, but outside, like in Europe and in the UK as well, they allow you to go on maternity leave for about a year as opposed to 6 months in other countries. So that also helps. More women and more organizations are advocating for period leave, where, you know, some people have extremely painful periods. I've also had that issue in the past. And you know, women have to deal with like excruciating pain and still show up at work. But more organizations are advocating for like, maybe even if it's just like 5 days in a month where you can work from home if possible, but be able to take care of yourself and go on leave if it's extremely painful. So people are becoming more aware and more conscious of women-related issues. And it's not just about pregnancy. So not saying that pregnancy is an issue, but, you know, there are other things that are related to women that requires them to go on leave outside of your regular sick leave. And of course, technology has helped people to be able to work from home and be able to attend to your meetings and work remotely. So I think that's a great thing. I think maybe that's one big thing that, or one blessing that came from COVID and the lockdown.
Toyosi, piggybacking on what you just said, I've found instances where when you are applying for a job, especially after you've submitted your CV and they've vetted the competencies, there's always that section there that asks if you are facing any challenges health-wise. Under normal circumstances, they'd ask you the basic, maybe HIV or cancer or whatever, just to determine your health status. But I noticed that there was a lot more that was added now. In terms of like what you just said with your menstrual cycle, whether you've got irritable bowel syndrome or whatever. I want to just hear from you. Do you think that that extra set of questions now, especially from a female standpoint, are those questions being asked because they perhaps want to exclude you because they know that you might be dealing with more, or they want to accommodate you as a woman?
Well, I would look at it from both ways. I don't know what the intentions of whoever it is that is asking the questions, but it could work out both ways. It could be that, okay, so that it doesn't come as news if I had disclosed that I have this health condition, and then if I have to go to the doctors or be away for some time, it doesn't come as news, especially if you are somewhat required to. But I believe that health issues are personal to me and I don't have to disclose everything. Right. I shouldn't be forced to. I can't if I want to, just because it doesn't come as a surprise to HR or to my boss at any time. But I shouldn't be required to disclose. I would like to hope and believe that it's not because they're trying to shove me aside because, she has this, please, she's not qualified, let's move her away. Yes, she's qualified on the job, but then she has all these other things that would not make her perform on the job as she should. But we cannot deny the fact that these things actually do exist. And fortunately or unfortunately, you need women to be able to push through economically and in every aspect. So we just have to deal with it. It's what women are going through. These things are becoming more rampant, and people are speaking more about these health conditions. And we have to find a way. Organizations have to find a way to accommodate it. We just have we have to accommodate. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Olutoyosi.
So we now have to like redefine policies and all those things to accommodate all of the things that are happening around the world.
Redefine policies. Thank you very much, Olutoyosi. I'm wondering exactly how INAM knows about these new changes when it comes to job forms and the queries that they give. I hope you're not looking for another job.
I mean, I am a journalist, so I research.
Yeah, researching.
Exactly, it's research.
Researching where next to go, INAM. You're stuck with us.
I research.
Let me come to the studio here and ask Doris. My final question, Doris. I'm wondering about mentorship. How do we get to change this? What is stereotype in the minds of girls? Are there mentorship programs out there that push women, young women, to actually want to achieve, especially in tech-related and STEM-related?
Yeah, there are programs. Like recently, I know that the former Ondo State First Lady, I guess, Akere Dulu, has something to do with ladies. I have to say, be more. Be more of yourself. So young girls are beginning to get aware to know, okay, we can actually achieve more by being myself. I can still be a lady and still achieve more. I think that's the essence or the vision of that organization where ladies are trained, especially in tech, because I see a lot of girls coming in and they are trained on robotics, on STEM-related subjects, and you see they all move on. So it's really good that these days we have organizations, we have NGOs that are beginning to encourage women, ladies, young girls to actually be themselves, achieve more, because now there's this, like I said, there's this mindset, oh, how can I do it in a male-dominated environment? And ladies are beginning to take the mantle, and if not careful, Mr. Mazuno,
it's all right.
We're gonna.
Well, there's four of you here and just me, so that's like a sample of exactly what.
And you can also see we have two of us.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you say? So really, on a very good note, it's a good thing that NGOs are coming up to encourage these young girls to actually come on, because it's a universal thing that, like Ms. Toyosi said, the space is accommodating. There's a whole lot of global issues that needs everybody's hands on deck. Be you a boy, a male, a female, we need everybody's hands on deck to actually take this mantle. And I like the fact that women are beginning to believe in themselves, to know that I can actually do this and I can actually work and be what I want to be, not also relegating my family.
Agreed.
And everybody achieves more. Yeah.
Well, what can I say? It's been a very interesting session. I want to say thank you very much, Olutoyosi, for joining us. And of course, thank you very much, Doris, for making it here physically into the studio to talk about this very interesting issue. Thank you once again, ladies. Now we'll take a quick break. We've got more conversation. It's our final hour for Breakfast Extra. We'll be with you in a second.
Every day across Nigeria, girls step into classrooms with questions about the world. Questions about their place in it, not because they lack the ability, but because the path has never been evenly paved. For these girls, choosing science is not about standing out, but following curiosity, even when the odds are unclear.
Don't have a lot of those like robotic engineers right now, so I think, I know that when I become one, I know that I'll do some great things.
A cardiologist when I grow up, to help people with their problems, make new machines for the cardiology. I think if I make really good tools to help with the heart, it will help people in their lives, which if people are good in their health, they can make the community better.
In schools, girls are always working, not just boys. And I think that that will definitely transfer into whatever careers they go into, whether it's male-dominated or not.
Learning science in Nigeria often means learning without tools, without steady electricity, and sometimes without the encouragement. The limitations do not erase the ambition, but they quietly test it. Beyond infrastructure, many girls face another barrier: expectations, the unspoken belief that science is too demanding, too technical, or simply not meant for them. So they learn early to work harder, not just to succeed, but to be taken seriously.
We have been underrated a lot. They think that they feel like we cannot do some certain things.
You go into a work environment, what you would say, that a guy would say, and you say, oh, he's just talking. When you say it, it comes out as you being emotional. Why did you say it like this? Or you carry yourself this way. You don't speak like this. It's almost like the female, what makes you a woman, which also adds to the reason that you can actually excel in your job, is they want to, what's the word now? They want to manage it to make you feel like, no, this is not accepted here. But in the real sense of it, you're actually speaking to the problem, you're speaking to the issue, and you understand what is going on, right? So I've had that experience, I still have it. How I deal with it is that I don't pay attention to it. I'm a very result-driven person. So when we get into the room to have a conversation, let's talk about the problem.
Yet, across Nigeria, women are already changing that story. Women building technology, leading research, designing solutions, and mentoring the next generation. They are engineers, scientists, innovators, and educators. Women who has proven that excellence in science has no gender. Their presence matter because representation turns possibility into something visible. Experts say empowering girls in science is not symbolic but essential for innovation, economic growth, and solving Nigeria's most pressing challenges.
In any society or setting, we need science and technology for us to move forward and for us to be part of the developed countries like US, UK, and some developed countries in the world. And if you can also give the same attention to our girls and women in Nigeria as far as science and technology is concerned, I believe that we have so many of them that are talented in the area of science and technology. So by encouraging them, by giving them an enabling environment to thrive in that area, I believe they are going to do even better than those in developed countries.
I am a girl in science, and I would like to study astrophysics in the future. The reason for the choice of my career path is because I love physics and the mathematical concepts, also the problem-solving aspect. And I know I can, and girls, even mentors above me, can and will make an impact and make a change. So I say, Happy International Day to girls and women in science.
These girls do not need permission to dream. They need opportunity. They need support. And as women across Nigeria continue to break barriers in science, the message becomes clearer. When girls are given the space to grow, they do not just imagine the future, they build it. In Lagos, for News Central, Placidia Ibekuni.
Welcome back. Now let's go to Kogi State. Our family in Kogi State is demanding justice after what they describe as an attempted sexual abuse involving their young daughter by a friend of her late father, an incident that has reignited conversation around child protection, accountability, and the growing role of digital evidence in criminal investigations. The case, which has drawn public attention and outrage, reportedly involves allegations against an adult male who was accused of attempting to lure and exploit the minor. The family says intervention came just in time, preventing what could have become another devastating statistic.
Now, Kogi State Governor on cyber crimes. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what is...
Emmanuel, we're going to come to you with questions in a bit. We have a package from this instance here that was put together by a News Central correspondent. We'd like to play that. And when we come back, we'll be asking questions regarding the investigation and what's transpired since. Let's take this package now.
Sexual abuse and alleged sexual misconduct are amongst the most underreported crimes, especially when minors are involved. Families remain silent due to fear, stigma, or concern for the child. In this case, the family has spoken out to raise awareness and alert other parents to the risks.
Public attention grew after an audio recording of a phone conversation
between Ernest Obetule and the minor surfaced online. The recording made by the family allegedly contained statements by Ernest suggesting inappropriate intentions.
At least I've told you I'll take care of you. You take care of me too, 50-50. That'll be a baby forever.
According to the survivor's mother, Ernest Obetule, in his 50s, had long been a trusted family friend and an associate of the child's late father.
He came along with my husband to spend the night. So after they had gone in the morning, my daughter came to me and said, "Mommy, do you know that the man that came here last night and spent the night with us was trying to touch me inappropriately?" And I queried her for the how. She said the man has said she should show him the toilet. So while she was going ahead to show him the toilet, he attempted to touch her. Now, before this time, she said that when the visitor and our daddy were sitting together, she was asking her daddy for data for her homework. And the man volunteered to give her the data. So he requested for her number so he could transfer the data to her. So that was how he was able to acquire her phone number. She told me that the man called and he told her that he was actually in Lokoja and he would like to see her. So since I was not around and we have already established that we needed to record the calls, somehow she cut the call, feigning as if it was network. So she didn't continue the conversation. He called later on in the evening. And of course, we did what we needed to do. And that's the note that has been circulating.
A lot of inappropriate comments, to a child. We're talking about a 14-year-old child here, But the mother was at the background telling her what to say back. Then I came up with that, let's play this game along with him. I need so much evidence, that I'll be able to use against this guy, even if I'm going to speak to him. But I need to confront him with evidence that he will not be able to deny it. But in this particular situation, I am hopeful, and I'm hopeful, and I keep finger crossed that justice will be served in this situation.
Meanwhile, authorities at the Kogi State Police Command confirmed that Ernest is in custody after being arrested at a lodge in Army Signal. They say that investigations are ongoing.
The family hopes that sharing their story will help serve as a warning and protect other children. In Kogi for News Central, Morno Balagbobo.
Stellar report there by Monok Balagbobo in Kogi State. And now, as we said from before, we're joined by Promise Emmanuel. He's the Senior Special Assistant to the Kogi State Governor on cyber crimes. Promise, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Promise. Promise, would like to know the current investigative status of this case and what concrete steps have authorities taken so far, if you will, please.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Nigerians. I'd like to first give kudos to the Nigerian police, Kogi State Command, because they acted swiftly. Because when I took the case, because the uncle reached out to me, someone based in the UK, and then he told me what was going on. I was a bit angry because earlier on he said he had reached out to security personnel and then told the person he had this going on with his child, and then the response was that kids of nowadays and how they dress, they also try to lure me. And I was really very angry. I was very angry because the individual involved, I didn't even know him. So I swung it into action, and then kudos to CSP Williams Aya. He's one of the task force team members I work with. So when we got the facts of the case, his men swung into action. We invited the girl and his mother, and then there was some interrogation. So men of the Nigerian police force actually told her to sustain the tempo of their conversation because he had traveled from Port Harcourt to Lokoja the previous day to see this young girl because of, that same purpose of trying to lure her. So they kept conversing over the night, and then were actively involved in the process, were telling her what to say, what to do, or up until he gave out his location where he was, and then the Nigerian police force in Mufti mobilized their men to the site. They trailed them down to where he got to the lodge, and he was trying to, make an entry into the room where he wanted to, commit the crime with the child, and then he was apprehended. So far so good. We have a responsible government in Kogi State, because we do not take such matters with levity. The administration of His Excellency Alhaji Usman Ododo frowns at such things, especially things that has to do with the girl child, and that involves a minor as well. So we have currently the Ministry of Women Affairs who are very interested in the case. They are on it. Also, the Commissioner for Police is also very interested in this case. And then so far so good. The individual is still in custody, and then investigations are ongoing. So since I cannot speak for the police force, except you ask me specific questions, then I would respond.
Thank you so much, I promise. My first question would generally be, the man has been apprehended and he is in custody. Have we received any confession from him?
Well, there were preliminary investigations from our own part before he was even put in the cell. And then we found out that most of the things the girl said were true. First, he's been conversing with her for almost a year now. And then when we asked him how he got the phone number, he said he volunteered to send her data. So when he sent her data, he had a number, and from then he's been talking to her. So I think there's been, between that time and now, there's been some exchanges that connote grooming. He's trying to ask her if he knows about sex. He was talking about condom. When I listened to some of the voice notes he sent to this child, I was really disgusted. So yeah, that's where we are now.
Now, I'm not sure how this connects with a cyber crime, but let's talk about pedophilia and the precautions that the government has put in play. Okay. And I say this because in yesterday's report, if you might have followed, it was the same instance with a young girl at the age of 4, and what happened to her was on school premises. What is the Nigerian government doing about pedophilia and the policies that should be implemented for not necessarily having a situation where things need to constantly be investigated and prolonged and dragged and all of that? What's the stance? What's the government's stance on pedophilia and crimes against children?
Okay, first, let me clarify on how this relates to cyber crimes. Like the case of the individual who is currently in detention for attempting to lure this 14-year-old girl, into sex. They exchanged electronic messages, and then electronic messages that involves grooming, especially when it involves a girl child with an intent to actually sleep with her, is part of the Cyber Crimes Act. Even the Cyber Crime Act of 2015 expressly states that, and then the consequences for doing such is about 15 million naira or 3 million naira in fine. Now, going back to the Nigerian state, I think
Sorry, I just need to clarify. The consequences for cyber harassment from minors is 15 million naira. That's the fine?
Yes, that's the fine.
So if a person is
that's
able...
The fine. That's the 2015 Cybercrime Act.
Okay, so if a person is able to pay the fine, do they go off scot-free?
Well, there's a 3-year imprisonment caveat to it, or a 50 million naira fine. But I think there's been a legislation process that have been improved upon that, and then now there's a 2024 Act which says that there's no option of fine, and then it's a life imprisonment.
I see your concerns. I saw your concern there, Inam. Yeah, interesting. So when you say there's a 2024 Act, does this mean that if you are able to pay this 15 million levied against you, you will still go scot-free? Is this still a bill, or has it been put into Act yet?
So this was 2015, but now there is a 2024 Act.
Please,
Yes, the
educate me.
2024 Act eliminates
sorry,
the part of the fine.
I apologize.
Yes.
Please educate me what the 2024 Act says.
Specifically.
Okay, I can read it to you expressly.
Please. Yes, please.
Just hold on a bit. Now, here is the, the Cybercrime Act is slightly different from the Child Rights Act. And then now, for me, my own part of the job in this whole scenario is the fact that there's been lewd exchanges of electronic messages between this man who is an adult with a child who doesn't have the agency to give consent. And so, but then when you take the individual to court, you're going to be probably suing on two grounds. You're going to be using the Cybercrimes Act of 2015 if it just involves only exchanges of electronic messages and then it stops there. That's when you can sue. And when you sue and then your lawyer uses that to argue in court, the penalty is 3 years imprisonment, and or an option of 50 million naira fine. But then you can also use the Child Rights Act, and then when you argue your case from that perspective, there is actually a penalty of life imprisonment without an option of fine. I hope I've been able to.
I get it. I get it now. I get it in
So this
two
is
different acts
two
here.
separate acts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, but I need you to educate me, who is a female, who has got a child, who is a minor, and every other individual that is watching Breakfast Extra today. Because again, like I said, yes, there are two different acts. You've quoted the 2015 Act, which speaks to the fine of the 15 million and a possibility, it's not a guarantee, a possibility of 3 years imprisonment. And the reason why I'm asking you this, sir, apologies, is that, remember, you gave me your stance as cybercrime. But if the act does take place and a child is molested, the cyber side of things is the evidence that substantiates the act. It was a premeditated thing, and the act took place. Please, the 2015 Act the 2024 Act that you speak about, please, can you educate us in what that act entails, please?
Well, the 2024 Act is expressly talking about what will happen when the act takes place. Now we are looking at intent, and then to close proximity of what the act says. Intent also means that you've committed the crime. So when you are taken to court, there are just no two ways about it. Once there is evidence that establishes the fact that this has happened, you're going straight to jail, and then there's no option of fine. That's what the Child Rights Act of 2024 says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get it now. So he's talking about two different acts here. One's the first one, which is based on evidence of the fact that there was interaction via text messaging. This is the 2015 Cybercrimes Act, which says that if you are culpable, if you are found guilty of that, you could pay 15 million or go to jail for 3 years. Now, if that proceeds into action, if any of these communication goes into actual crime, where in this case pedophilia, then it would be the 2024 Act that comes into play here, where there is no option, it's just life imprisonment. Am I correct, Promise?
Yes, exactly, you're correct.
We've settled that then. We've settled that. So, Promise, I know that this is just only one of many that has happened. We've seen cases that actually go into full-blown criminal activity. And I'm wondering what the stats say about this. How prevalent are these kinds of situations in the Nigerian climate?
Well, in addendum, currently, I think as of 2 days ago, the same task force actually effected the arrest of an individual. Although these ones are not minors, the girl is 23, and then the boy is about, the man rather is about 25 years old. And there were people who they were lovers before, and then the lady says she was no longer interested. Now, during the course of their relationship, they exchanged some inappropriate videos and pictures or photographs. So this guy has been threatening to release the videos, meaning, of course, you know what I mean, no pictures or videos online if she doesn't continue the relationship. And then when we got when my office was notified, we did the usual that we're doing. Now, there is a thing around sex, and there's a thing around how the prosecution of the offenders have been over the years. I would say that we haven't paid so much attention to it. Either it's because of how the society doesn't think we should pay so much attention to it, even when there's public outcry, when some of these things happen. I really don't know. But now, for us, in Kogi State, I can't speak for Nigeria. By the day, as much as the cases come, we try to do our best. And when it involves minor, especially, like I said, we don't leave any stone unturned. Now, let me pick out a fact in this whole thing that is going on. The individual that was picked up for trying to, lure this young child, into sex is a member of the All Progressives Congress, APC, a party which I belong to, which is also the ruling party in Kogi State. And if you see, because the government doesn't tolerate this, we look at the laws, we look at protecting the girl child. We are very much focused on bringing the perpetrators of those kind of crimes, to justice, regardless of their political affiliations or wherever it is they come from or their social standing. So now, to the larger society, what we are doing in Kogi State should be more like a mirror for others to follow. By the day, if people speak up, if security agencies take action, if those who are responsible to also enforce most of these laws are doing their own bits, by the second, we'll find a way of ameliorating the menace. Because now, I think these issues are grossly underreported. Either because there's no state sanction, or because a lot of people are even scared of coming out. Because while we're prosecuting the case, we have to be assuring the mother not to be afraid. We're giving the child confidence that you're protected, nothing is going to come to you. We also did as much as we could not to expose her, so people don't get access to know her name. So it's to prevent things like bullying at school and all those other things that comes along with it. So it's a wholesome package. There's a part for the general members of the society to do their part. There's also a bit for the government to do their part. There's also, we should also have the political will. I mean, the government apparatus should have a political way of stamping their foot to say, okay, we want to see this to the end. And when we come, because so far in Kogi, since we started this case, we've not seen any political intervention in any way to say, oh, we should stop, this person belongs to this our party, we don't want you to continue the case. Everybody is actually agitating for justice. And I think that it will be done from our end. So I can speak to what we're doing in Kogi, not Nigeria as a whole.
Well, Promise Emmanuel, I want to say thank you very much, and thank you very much to your for your blind eye to justice here. It's something that we hope that we see more, especially in Nigeria, where we have such a warped sense of justice. But thank you for the efforts that you're putting, especially for this family. We hope to see justice, and well, we'll continue to follow the story. And maybe other times when we have these kinds of conversations, we'd love to have you, maybe even in person here in the studio, to have that conversation. Thank you very much. Promise.
It's all right. All right. I'll be available. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. It's a rather emotional weekend when it comes to children and matters relating, because we had one of such only just yesterday, which almost brought you to tears, by the way. And
it's very unfortunate. Yeah, it's very unfortunate when you look at the roadmap to justice in Nigeria. And when you look at it as an individual, you look at it, and I think them wanting to give the mother the reassurance is because when you look at it, even from my own end, it looks very bleak, you know? He just mentioned now that the person is part of the APC. In terms of powers that be, we don't know that. Right now they're saying that we're going to make sure that justice is served. But then again, if the man has got the 15 million, the guy's going to go scot-free.
Well, yeah, there is that to consider, because there was no action after all of that.
But that's what I'm just trying to say, that, Mazino, at what point is someone paying for the consequence of even what you call an attempt? The reason why it did not take place is because it was diverted. But there is something called attempted murder, attempted whatever, and you go away for that. You do time for that. So
yeah, I see your concern there, and I saw that in your questioning. Well, we hope that this doesn't just stop here. That there are more policies that are engaged to try and make sure that
maybe I should go to Kogi State and like.
Let's talk about what happened on Friday. Were you here on Friday here at News Central? It was such an occasion. We had so much fun. It was Friday the 13th, and that was what we were celebrating. Hold on a second, I'm sorry, wrong script. It was the day before Valentine's, and that was what we were celebrating. It was a day we all took out time to say, hey, let's share love amongst ourselves here in the office, and it was a fun time. Let's give you a small package on that so you have a little in view, like a fly on the wall, as to what happened here on Valentine's.
Love came early to News Central Newsroom this year, even if it was Friday the 13th. The team at News Central traded breaking news for bonding moments as staff gathered to celebrate Valentine's Day in grand style. From energetic pair challenges to show-stopping karaoke performances, the atmosphere was filled with laughter, music, and just the right touch of friendly competition. Winning pairs and standout karaoke stars walked away with special prizes, adding an extra spark to an already electric celebration. Beyond the games and glamour, it was the heartfelt gesture that truly defined the day. Anonymous love notes circulated across the newsroom, reminding colleagues of the power of appreciation, kindness, and connection in the workplace.
You have a body of a goddess.
It was a celebration not just of romance, but of teamwork, friendship, and the vibrant spirit that drives News Central every single day. We continue spreading love.
Hey, welcome. It's time for the strips. It's our final segment for today. It's the best part of the show, according to most people who have been on as guests or even co-hosts. I don't know if does this represent your best segment on Breakfast Extra?
I mean, I really do enjoy it. I think you made me trend the other day for the whole...
Yeah, you did trend after that little remark you made about Oshomole, or the depiction of Oshomole, which was spot on, by the way. So today we have a gamut of strips, and we only have about, I don't wear watches, 5 minutes to go through them. So let's already get started. Let's have our first strip for today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at this. Of course, it has a U.S. president in it and a depiction of someone who we think is Alison Madueke. The air bubble there says, don't worry, I won't call you a now disgraced pastor. As we know, when you're in a place of power in Nigeria, you're regarded as sometimes even a, hang on a second. Did I get that? Did I?
Yes, you did.
What was that? What was that? I got that wrong there.
It's not Alison. It's
oh,
the wife of
is
the
it?
president.
Say again?
Wife of the president.
I didn't hear you there.
Wife of the president.
The wife of the president. So I got that wrong for the very first time here. Because these cartoons sometimes can be very subjective. So I'm going to leave this one and then attack the next one. Let's talk about the next one here while I come back, because I can't, based on my interpretation, I'll get it wrong then. So let's do our very next strip for this morning here. Chop, chop, guys, we only have just a little time. Good, grand. Let's talk about this here. Now, I'll tell you who that is in just about a bit. But check out the air bubble from this character. I am keeping the stones so you won't transmit them directly upon my forehead. The voters there depicted by that guy who seems to be the David in this David and Goliath story. And here, Senate President Godswill Akpabio with a bag of stones, electoral transmission and collation of results. This is how I describe this picture here. This is power. This is what we have when it comes to the authorities as the voters, the electorate and all. But when it comes to the reform that's happening inside of INEC regarding transmission of election results, they seem to want to withhold that opportunity. And many people argue that once you withhold that power, it gives you room to be able to manipulate things. And that's the argument we've been having all week. I don't know if you followed the instances from or through the week regarding the reform, the Senate going back and forth and or transmission versus transfer. What was your thought on it?
I mean, Mazino, right now, I'm not going to lie, I don't really have insight to it. I'm just trying to see the reason behind one would call them excuses.
Exactly.
Yeah, one would try to call them excuses. I think they're also still trying to contemplate or debate whether having the electronic transmission? Is it for them or against them? And others would then say, you know, from a manipulation thing, because elections in Nigeria, there's always been a question of the accuracy and efficacy of the election. So if you are now handing over the power to something electronic, how much of that can actually be manipulated? And I think those are some of the things that they are trying to look at. I know that they had said they're going to do a test run first. And that should be done, I think, sometime in March. And I think maybe that will determine whether or not this happens or not.
You are correct. I think a test is required. We absolutely do need to see how this might work. I think without the test, you can't actually go any further. So for me, that was what I was saying as late as yesterday. How about we put this to the test first? Let's see how it runs. But I'm being hurried here by the producers because we need to go on our next one. We're almost at the end of the show. Producers? Okay. Now, let's talk about the APC-PDP transfer. PDP seems to be on fire, and there's plenty that's happening inside of the party now. However, only this morning we read on the papers, the front pages, about the reforms that they're making and how they're solidifying for 2027. But this is still the transference we see from the PDP into the APC. Nothing seems to have changed. For me, the most unique feature in this here cartoon is the fact that they chose to represent politicians with rats. And I'm wondering how apt that might be for you, Inam. Let's get you in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble, but I mean, it's no, I don't want to get in trouble, Maziro. I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay, we don't.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Let's move on real quick. What a day for us to be speeding through these strips. Let's move on to our next strip here this morning. Fantastic. Good. And now we're chased. No, not chased. We're plagued by ghosts. What was that thing? A ghost of Christmas past?
Yep.
Now this is what you call this instance. Ghosts of Nigeria's present.
Present, future, past.
Is as in it's all of them.
I love this one, actually.
Yeah, I do too. You have the average Nigerian, oh my goodness, I'm looking for what to eat. And he's labored with that with an empty plate. But these are the conditions, the issues that he has to suffer through. Banditry in the north, bad police every single place, bad VIO, who seem to be the next. They've been asked to get off the street, but the vehicle inspection officers are back on the streets, not obeying the court order that's been put out, and citizens are actually challenging them. To those who don't know, they still have to comply with them, but for those who are educated on, exposed, and know exactly what's happening when it comes to the reforms or the laws that are being put out there, there's a scuffle going on. There's arguments on the streets, and of course, you have the tout system. Kudos to the Lagos state government, by the way. Recently, they've been arresting these miscreants on the roads, trying to make Lagos especially a safer place. I think in Abuja as well, that's happening.
You know what's so interesting?
What is?
To me, with regards to this strip, is that in as much as the guy that is perhaps poverty-stricken is running away, and for him, those are the ghosts that are plaguing him. But if you're looking at it from a different angle, a person would say, well, ghosts are an illusion. So when he's running away, someone in a different stance in life can say, but ghosts don't exist. So you're running away from things that don't exist. All these things that you say are plaguing you.
I see the layers there you're
actually
putting.
Aren't a problem in Nigeria.
When you put classes into this, I think the classes will think that these are just illusions.
Yes.
So you do have a point. I love it when you analyze things I don't see. You should have helped me out with the first one then. You didn't. Oh, by the way, daily bread is what the struggle is. However, there at the bottom, I hope you can see it. But these devils are determined to eat me up instead. Let's move to our second, or rather, maybe what might be our last strip for today. And it's animated. It's the grin for me. Does that look familiar to you? Who is it?
That's our good man.
The character here is supposed to predict, of course, if you've seen the insignia on the hat, the president. And that there is poor old you. No, you're South African. Us, the Nigerian people. But if you live here with us, you're suffering through the same thing.
I've been getting those debits. I've been getting those,
I know, right?
Those taxes.
Let's wring every single Nigerian like as if they're a wet cloth. Let's get everything out of them. Under there, the bowl of blood. This is what we've been suffering through. This speaks for itself, and I like that somebody chose to animate it. Business, they always have these very true-to-life types of depictions. Asuko does a very great job when it comes to these cartoons. I won't say much about this. It speaks for itself. I promise this is our very last one. Let's take it away and show you this. Now, all right, we'll give you each transmission, but we'll help you hold the network. The same David and Goliath story from before the stones were holding. Nigerian stakeholders, no e-transmission, no election, our votes must count. But here's the thing. Even if they say, at the end of the day, we're going to give you e-transmission. I was asking this question. Do you people notice that on election day, we often experience very poor network connection? Is anybody thinking about that? Who's going to mandate the telcos that this must not be the case come 2027? Because if we're still looking at framing or work terminologies when it comes to the reforms that we see INEC trying to go through, you're also not considering infrastructure and the people who are the gatekeepers for that infrastructure. So that's another argument I think people should take on this week we're entering. Because these telcos, yep, might happen. Inam, want to put 1 or 2 on that before we go?
I think if I put it on, it's going to be a very long debate. I think, Mazino, in the conversation that we had would have been yesterday. I think for me, the reality that we have is just that in as much as Nigerians are desperate for change, sometimes we struggle to look at the reality because the reality is not supposed to be what it is. In a country that's so tech savvy, this should not even be a problem. Readiness should not be a problem. But the unfortunate thing is that, are we really ready for it? Are we ready for it? Otherwise, if we're like, well, we don't care whether we're ready or for it, do it, then the probability is that we might just be setting ourselves up to fail.
Apparently. Thank you very much, Inam. The producers want me to throw in one more, very last one, and boom. Yes, corruption seems to have clogged our economy so far. I'm going to shift a bit so you can see on this side here, the poor man who's simply waiting his turn to go through that conduit, but nothing's happening. We're still broke. We're still waiting for the big fat people who are standing in the front of the queue to give us some room. I always say this, it's in your hands. Come 2027, you get to make the choice from a grassroots level. And I'm an advocate for grassroots politics. Forget about the top and all the distractions that we see. It's time to take grassroots politics very, very importantly. That's where you start from. Inam, it's time we say goodbyes for a very healthy weekend of Breakfast Extra. I have absolutely enjoyed it. I'm going to be looking forward to next week's edition, and I hope that we have some great stories that we can... Well, the funny thing is I don't hope that they're great because sometimes bad news can be all that we have to go.
Controversial regardless.
Let's say thank you to viewers who joined us since yesterday. And hopefully they look forward to tomorrow, Monday up until Friday, when Benga, Joe, and Olive will be in for breakfast. Inam, your goodbyes? I'm tapped out already.
I've tapped out with you, but thank you so much to the viewers again. And yeah, wishing everyone a blessed week.
Bye-bye now.